You know that one friend who arrives, surveys whatever catastrophe is underway, flooded kitchen, car that won't start, deleted thesis, full meltdown, and they simply go still for a moment. They don't panic or start frantically typing symptoms into a search bar. They just consider and then their hands get moving. And you're stood there asking yourself why your own opening move was tears. So, what truly separates a person like that from all of us standing by? It really isn't even an experience. And once you notice the pattern, you will see it everywhere after. Let's rewind to something psychologist Albert Bandura mapped out in the late 1970s. He called it self-efficacy, and translated out of the academic dialect, it's simply your conviction that you can manage whatever is sitting in front of you. Not blanket positivity. It's narrower than that. It's the sensation of, I've dealt with things before, and this particular thing is dealable. Bandura found that this conviction by itself sharply shifts how long a person stays with a problem before quitting and how much energy they commit once it turns difficult. So, where do people like this come from in the first place? This is where it turns personal. Consider the very first occasion a child tries fixing something, genuinely tries, and it holds. Even something trivial. They jiggled the plug and the light came back. They restarted the machine and it did install. They pressed on the scrape and it stopped bleeding. That moment does a thing to them, and the light and the scrape are beside the point. It rewires how they position themselves against problems. Abruptly, the world stops being a thing that merely happens to them. It's now a thing they can reach into and rearrange. And every occasion after that, when something fails, their nervous system doesn't run the shutdown routine. It moves into something like gentle interest along the lines of, oh, a puzzle. Puzzles have opened for me before. Bandura's label for these was mastery experiences, and study after study positions them as the strongest single wellspring of self-efficacy going. Not being reassured you're capable, not watching somebody else manage it, doing the repair personally, that's the part that stays. It's a trained truce with uncertainty. It's a learned arrangement with uncertainty. Julian Rotter spent decades examining what he termed locus of control, how far somebody credits their own actions with deciding outcomes rather than chance or destiny. And people planted firmly at the internal end of that spectrum don't merely repair things better. They're less prone to developing depression. They handle stress in ways that don't require demolishing their entire lives. They stay with things longer. The pattern is held up across separate cultures and age brackets. The belief that your effort genuinely counts appears to be among the most protective psychological traits anyone can carry. But most of these people didn't arrive built this way, not one of them. It began in very particular moments, mostly in childhood, when somebody either placed agency in their hands or gave them no route except digging it up alone. Sometimes that meant a parent saying, I won't hand you the answer, I'll help you reach it. And sometimes that meant a parent who was simply never around to ask. So the kid learned to answer themselves. Both roads end at the same place, the same kid, the same lesson. Now, a piece that's honestly surprising because from outside it reads as confidence, but it's a different substance altogether. When a fixer steps into a broken situation, they hold no certainty it will resolve. They carry no secret guarantee. They feel the identical uncertainty you feel. The difference is that uncertainty doesn't arrive as a sentence being read to them, more like a door left ajar. There's a psychological construct covering this, tolerance of ambiguity, the capacity for standing inside a situation where the answer hasn't materialized yet, and not falling apart while you hunt for it. People who can't sit with ambiguity demand a resolution fast. They need to hear it will all be fine right now. And when nobody can say that, the worry floods in and they lock up or they hand the whole mess to whoever looks calm and back off quietly. The fixer in your life, at some point along the road, they learn to stand in that itchy middle ground. Okay, let's stop here. I want to level with you about something because I believe this video would be shortchanging you if I skipped it. Some people who can repair everything, and I do mean everything, the emotional, the practical, the logistical, for every person around them sometimes aren't operating from strength. Some of them learned fixing because fixing was their admission ticket. The approval lived inside the solution. Standing around helpless was at one point in their lives a real risk. So their nervous system ruled, helpless will never, never happen to me again. And that's closer to a coping trick dressed up in borrowed armor. The giveaway arrives when they're asked to let somebody else take over. They physically cannot settle, they're circling. They're circling and handing out advice nobody asked for. They need the thing fixed. Not just for your sake, since one unfixed thing anywhere near them feels like one unfixed thing inside themselves. But then there's the second type, and this one deserves the longer, warmer look. The one who repairs out of plain curiosity because broken things honestly delight them. The gap between a thing not running and a thing running is one of the best places on earth to them. These people will happily dismantle a thing they already repaired, a thing that works now, just to understand it better than they already do. They'll pose questions with zero practical payoff at all. They'll walk you through what went bad at a depth nobody asked for, glowing, like they just found something lovely. These are people who fell for competence itself, not the result, but the procedure, the slow working out. Keeping company with people like that recalibrates you more than almost anything you could arrange, because what they demonstrate without intending it is that not knowing how is merely a temporary condition. Broken is not a permanent verdict, and a problem is a thing your hands can genuinely shift. You might be sitting there recognizing yourself in this and realizing you never examined why. Or you might be recognizing you're not, and that operating this way sounds honestly alien to you. And if you're in the second camp, I want to speak to you directly. The reason you hand off your broken things isn't a defect in your character. It's a history, a pile of experiences that taught you problems, are things that happened to you rather than the reverse. And it isn't a permanent state either. The entire architecture of self-efficacy, Bandura's whole argument, is that it assembles through lived attempts. Little victories, thin slivers of I gave it a go and it held. Not big, heroic fixes, simply you tightened the hinge. You placed the call yourself, you skipped waiting for rescue just this single time. That's where it begins. So tell me in the comments about the first thing you ever repaired yourself, however small it was. Because somebody scrolling past needs the proof it starts that tiny. And if these breakdowns earn their place in your week, subscribe.